Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Nebula series live streams. I am your host, producer, and part-time caster, Caustic here, and we've got an exciting matchup tonight, a surprise matchup, technically speaking, as we don't normally do Sunday games, but tonight we have two undefeated teams battling against each other. We've got Shapeless Abyss facing off against the Leviathans, both undefeated teams for Div 3. And I'm going to be your shoutcaster for tonight. Joining me, I have Gem here, who's going... Actually, no, I'm going to be the analyst. Gem is shoutcasting tonight. Say hello, Gem. Yeah, honestly, this is going to be probably one of the more exciting and anticipated matches between two Div 3 teams, considering both of these teams are undefeated. I do believe both teams have lost a map at least, but they are both 5-0 on the standings. So one team is sadly going to lose the undefeated title as we get into the match tonight. And let's take a look at the starting rosters. Okay, so Cal Phoenix, Ave, and Honeybun, Valid and Tolop. Decent team mix. I feel like we've seen a lot of these players frequently on stream, so you know, the typical lineup we expect from them.
Tonight's the night that you pull out all the stops. Both teams know that this is going to be a very competitive match, so why not just bring out the starters, right?
True. And on the side of Leviathans, we have one Boop on the tank. You've got Dusty and Hunter on the DPS side, and Eat Yo Bacon and Elvin as the supports for the Leviathans tonight.
Now, I think we know what to expect from Leviathans, to be real with you. Actually, I think we know what to expect from both of these teams. Yeah. Both these teams run pretty consistent stuff, and I'm curious to see how they both have prepared for this match ahead. Of course, Shapeless knowing that Leviathans are going to try to force this Wrecking Ball into pretty much everything that they play. While, you know, Shapeless is really known for if I remember correctly, is really known for their dive as well. So are they going to go in for that dive mirror, or are they going to...
Yeah, or are they
honestly try to try something else out here?
That's a pretty good question, especially considering the fact that the map pick on the side of Shapeless Abyss, they decided to take this map over to Oasis. We've seen a lot of Lijiang Tower. It's almost always Lijiang Tower that we expect to see for the control map. So seeing the switch over to Oasis is going to be interesting. A lot of teams are almost 100% confident on Lijiang Tower as like the primary map that they're going to practice. So seeing Oasis come out is going to be a bit of a different approach. I'm interested to see how it works out, especially considering if I'm not mistaken, there's at least a couple different spots on Oasis that are good for ball. So if you're expecting ball from the Leviathans, which so far does seem to be the case, what is your adjustment? How do you want to plan for this?
Well, I think a very clear way to prepare for this ball is you can go one of two ways. One, you know pretty much what Leviathan's backline is entire line's going to be the entire time. So maybe go for those trades on the backline, or switch up your comp, go some Brawl Hyper Sustain and just live those dive spikes every single time. But let's see how they adjust to this.
Yeah, let's take a look here as One Boop is set up on this high ground, trying to just point and get a bit of damage early on. You do see Honeybun and Dusty both on the Genji here. Honeybun falling dangerously low, is going to be able to fall back and stay alive. Cal Phoenix is going to get the first pick onto the Cass, and Valid is going to fall for Shapeless Abyss. Ave takes down Eat Yo Bacon, so Leviathan's not in the best situation here, as the rest of their team is going to come falling down, and the only person left is One Boop, who tries to live but is going to get taken down from Honeybun there. First fight is going to go over to the side of Shapeless Abyss, but now you always have to factor in that after that first fight, it's early enough in that you can always switch stuff up.
Yeah, and what I want to see, the reason why, you know, the Leviathans kind of fell apart there is that their engagement timing was pretty off there. Everybody was not really in their correct place, even though One Boop was positioned correctly, nobody else was. So that led to an early pick.
Yeah, so we're gonna see Dab every day getting dangerously low. Eat Yo Bacon is gonna fall as well. So that's 2 members down for the Leviathans. They make that 3, and at this point, the fight is fairly close to being over. Cal Phoenix is going to fall from One Boop, but One Boop is in a really tough position and is going to fall right by the spawn doors. A very difficult stagger to take there, as now the Leviathans just have to group up by their spawn door and kind of try and get back into another fight, even with the fact that Ball died a little bit late there for them.
And check the ult bank from Shapeless and Leviathans. They are going to have a very rough time here, looking for this pulse bomb here.
Oh,
does not find
misses. Dab every day is close to the high noon. We're going to see if they try to use it just for the reload or not, but members of the Shapeless Abyss team are going to fall fairly early. Tolop and Honeybun are the only people alive. Tolop's the only one that's able to contest the point, and the point is going to switch over to the side of the Leviathans. Honeybun is just going to try and get some poke damage, as they are relatively close to their blade, and they do have a Kitsune rush coming in relatively soon. You also have to worry about the Winton ult if you are the Leviathans, but you do have that castle, so you have that as an option, or you can take him down before he even gets the opportunity to use it. Tolop's gonna pop the Kitsune. You see the blade get used too. The blade is not able to find a pick yet. Dusty's gonna pop the blade of his own, but fall in the process. Elvin uses the Coalescence, is not gonna be able to take down Ave just yet. The Phoenix is gonna get back into the fight, and the Phoenix, the Winston does have Primal, but is just gonna fall back, and now it's just going to be a question of how long they can contest, and if they can get a solid fight coming back in. You're going to see the Winston pop the Primal. He is going to take down the Cass in the process, going after Dusty. Dusty is dangerously low and is going to get chased by the Winston. Only person really left on the point is going to be that Wrecking Ball, who did pop the mines. But at this point, the Wrecking Ball is just going to give up the point progression that they had at the time. It's still going to contest before it flips over, because the Juno is coming into play. Beat is popped. Ave does have this Pulse Bomb, is currently looking at Dab every day, but is not able to find a stick yet. They are going to drop the Primal, and the Pulse, and it is going to find a pick. The point switches over to Shapeless Abyss, and now the clock is ticking, as One Boop's going to try and contest, at least to force it to overtime.
Now, if you're Leviathans here, you have One Boop is crucial to staying alive here. Not only just to keep the pressure up and not allow them to crap. One Boop also still has to be the spearhead for this fight, still getting those aggressive slams. So let's see how this really shapes up here.
Yeah, this is going to be really interesting, as you do see Dab every day switching over to the Reaper. Dusty is going to go over to the Tracer just to try and be able to get back onto the point to contest it in time, but it doesn't look like they're going to be able to, as the first point of control is going to go over to Shapeless Abyss. And now go ahead, Jem.
And now we're going into map 2 with the 1-0. And so there's a couple standouts that I wanted to talk about here. Number one is the Cassidy into this Winston. Cassidy into Winston is what known as, literally one of the worst matchups for Winston here. So honestly, to take out that Winston, all they really needed to do was keep all their resources on the Cassidy. bait the Winston to jump in and then take him out here. But it looks like we're going to get into a comp swap for Shapeless Abyss onto the Ramatra here, which is going to prove to be very difficult for Leviathans unless they play it correctly.
Yeah,
so let's
honestly,
see how this shapes up here.
This point in particular I find is a lot better for the brawl kind of close range stuff, and I don't feel like it benefits the ball that much, as we are going to see a little bit of damage early on. A very, very good rollout there just to kind of do a lot of damage, but Elvin's going to fall early to Ave. So this cast on both sides of the coin is going to be doing a fair amount of damage. Dab every day is fairly low, and they fall off the map.
And that's the trouble with this Wrecking Ball comp. You know, ironically, the ball comp is only very effective on this map against most other things. If they get that first fight win, it's really good defensively because the ball can set up very early and go for roll throughs and just completely split up the brawl team. However, attacking this and splitting up the team that already wants to stay really grouped up is going to be very difficult for Leviathans.
Yeah, it'll be all about getting this. Honeybun is very low, but doesn't die in the process. Dab every day is going to take down Valid though as they switch over to the Soj. Dab every day is going to fall fairly low and is going to fall off the map again. So a bit of a misplay there. If you're Dab every day, you're trying to get away from the Genji that's chasing you, and in the process you slide off the map. And now the question's gonna be how well the rest of the team is going to be able to deal with that, as Tolop's going to pop the Kitsune Rush of their own. Honeybun has the blade here and is full health, so we might see the blade come out, but Dusty has a blade of his own to try and counter, and One Boop is very close to the mines.
Now with this ult advantage, One Boop knows that he has to play very slow, but once he gets those mines, he could just set up early for that fight, and Leviathans just get the green light to go ahead and engage. It doesn't really matter.
Dusty uses the blade, finds one pick before the Lucio beat comes into play. Honeybun pops the blade of their own, but isn't going to be able to find a pick with it. Dab every day is in this kind of backline area trying to get some picks, or at least a good amount of damage. Honeybun is dangerously low, but is going to be able to retreat. Valid's going to get taken down in the process. One Boop is low, but they are going to be able to get the support that they need. And now Honeybun is going to fall, and 98% on the point for Shapeless Abyss as the point switches over to the side of the Leviathans for the time being to try and cap some progress. But right now the Leviathans have the ult advantage.
Now you're going to see what I was talking about come into play here. Now it's going to be really hard for Shapeless Abyss to rotate in. Even though Cal Phoenix is already in this room, he's already blocked off, and he's super low for out immediately, and he goes down. It doesn't even matter that they had the ult advantage there. Shapeless will just fall over every single time, as long as Leviathan is able to get those sufficient splits every single time. Shapeless have to be very careful with how they take these engages, because all One Boop is going to do is just trying to force out form early, and once form is down, that's it.
And honestly, that's a fight where it's all right to pop the Juno ult. I know it is a very powerful ult given given Juno's potential, but you have the Wrecking Ball ult fairly close to being being in your possession, as I mean, just in this beginning stages of this fight, they do get the ult in play. Elvin does pop the Coalescence. In the meantime, Dusty is going to find the pick onto Valid, leaving only the Kiriko to try and heal the rest of the team, but they do have the Kitsune Rush in hand as a possibility if needed, as the rest of the team's kind of going to try and group up and come back for this fight, which, honestly speaking, the amount of ults that are in play, this might be the last fight for them, as the Kiri is going to fall fairly quick. The Soj does pop their ult, but is going to fall in the process. You have the Ramatra ult on the point. One Boop is going to deal with a couple of punches here. Honeybun is going to pop the blade, as well as Ave popping the High Noon. Dusty is going to fall despite popping the blade of their own, and now it's just a question of who can get this point progress and potentially flip it, as 99% for both teams, it's whoever can keep the point for longer is going to win this map, as the rest of the Leviathans are just trying to keep as much overtime running as possible to just try and hope to regroup and get back into this fight. Dusty's on the Tracer, is not able to recall in time. One Boob is able to get back to touch at least once, but that's gonna do it, as Shapeless Abyss are gonna take the first map on Control in the first point in the match.
I think what really stands out to me here, is Shapeless Abyss's ability to adapt to Leviathan's comp, and then also punish their mistakes as quickly as they can. Now, it's made it look easy here when you're sitting in your chair, like, oh yeah, no, Leviathans did this, Leviathans did that. But think about how difficult it is to spot that kind of thing, and spot those rotations, those difficult and spot those like weaknesses while you're playing that game. And Shapeless Abyss is really showing off their prowess to do so. And then secondly, their adaptation on map number 2 to go to that Ramatra to really play for sustain there, show that they understood what their weaknesses were and exploited it very well. Even though they lost that first fight, they just kept on running it down, and eventually they did until it worked. And those adaptations really add up over this course of the game. Now let's see if Leviathans is able to adapt in the same sort of way that Shapeless did.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, as now the Leviathans do have the hybrid pick. Now, as Shapeless Abyss gets the side pick, there's one hybrid map that everyone expects, right? So if you are Leviathans, do you switch it up and go with one of the other maps that aren't played much in an attempt to kind of, try and mess with the momentum of Shapeless Abyss?
Shapeless has shown some prowess on that brawl here, so I think it would go against Leviathan's best interest to pick King's Row here. And judging by the effectiveness of Ball, I think Hollywood may be this best option here. However, I do know that Leviathans love themselves some Paraíso, so maybe we're gonna see some Paraíso. My guess is we're definitely not gonna get that KR here. They don't want to take that brawl mirror. They want to play to their strengths and keep Shapeless Abyss on their toes. So I'm predicting. You know what? I'm gonna go crazy here. I'm gonna predict that Paraíso pick.
You're predicting Paraíso. Okay, I don't hate that pick. I mean, we've been seeing a bit more Paraíso in the in the last couple streams, honestly. So I don't hate it. I actually think Paraíso is a pretty good map. I mean, it's gonna be interesting to see, though. You always have to factor in as well, especially with hybrid. I find it's really important, just factoring in each point that you potentially have to, face off with, because there's a possibility that one point might be better than the other on Paraíso for a specific playstyle.
Exactly.
So,
and Hollywood is your standard dive. However, I know that Leviathans doesn't like that on a break backline. So I don't think Hollywood would suit their interests. I don't think Hollywood would suit their comp very well, especially since a lot of the characters that they like to play aren't usually very vertically mobile. Now, Paraíso does have its fair share of high ground and stuff like that, but it's more fluid. Where Hollywood has more rigid positioning, and there's pretty much a solved positioning for where you should stand at basically any given morning. Paraíso is kind of that, wild card. That wild card.
Okay.
I'll tell you this. I played in a league with no map bans. Not a single time did I ever play on Paraíso. I feel like people are really scared of this map. Honestly, it has a bad reputation, and for a good reason, in my opinion.
Gotcha.
So why not just take them to someplace that? Why not take Shapeless to someplace that is probably unfamiliar,
Okay.
and suits your play style the best.
All right. Yeah.
However,
Makes sense.
I could be just proven wrong. They're gonna pick King's Row and run it down. Go
Yeah,
for that brawl
you never
mirror.
know. I guess in the meantime, we're just going to quickly go over. There is a swap that is happening. We are going to see Alien coming in to replace Hunter.
That's a very interesting swap there. So what that tells me, first of all, is knowing Dab every day is that he's a devout Cassidy player, but knowing Alien's a little bit more flexible when it comes to it. So
okay,
I'm guessing that they're going to try to do some they're going to try to change it up. They're going to try to, and the pick is Paraíso.
yeah.
I mean, now, I don't know what else is left to say about it, but I think Paraíso is going to be it is really the ace in the hole for Leviathans here.
True.
As long as they understand this map better than Shapeless, they're going to have a very good time playing against it. It doesn't really matter what Shapeless play. Pathing on this map, especially on second point, is very difficult if you do not know what you're doing.
Okay.
Where the high ground, it's unlike Gibraltar, where the high ground and the high ground and the cart path are different.
Yeah, and you do have to factor in as well with the switch over, as you're going to see Alien's going to be playing the Genji and Dusty's going to go over to the Soj, at least from what we see currently. Shapeless Abyss are going to be on the attack to start off. You do have to factor in, you did have a couple of moments where Dab Every Day kind of misplayed on the Soj and, fell off the map and, basically just kind of not necessarily in Ajax, because there's no ults in the equation, but just fell off the map. So maybe you put in Dusty on the Soj and give Dab Every Day a break for a map, just to kind of say, all right, a couple of misplays there, it's all right. Kind of try and get your mental back, as the first fight's going to be coming into play here. You do see the Ana from Elvin.
I just want to talk about the backline for Shapeless. Now, this backline for Shapeless Abyss is a very annoying backline, but it's something that you don't usually see. Oh, never mind, they swapped to Brig.
Yeah, they do have the Brig in play here. I mean, for the Leviathans, though, you've got the Juno Ana, which I don't know if I've seen that combination that often.
Juno Ana is usually played in backlines for Brawl Hyper Sustain. You usually see it a lot from a lot of mid to high tier teams. Using it on Ramatra comps, it's very obnoxious to play up against. You don't know how to play against it, because if you don't take out that backline, nobody on that team dies. But at the same time, if you try to go after one individually, nobody dies. Cal Phoenix diving on the backline here.
Yeah, Cal Phoenix does dive onto Elvin and get taken down in the process. Now you're in a really tough position if you're the Leviathans, because you are down both of your supports. Dusty is going to get taken down from Honeybun here. One Boop's the only one left close to the objective, as the rest of their team is really only respawning now. The question is One Boop just going to try and escape, or are they actually going to try and contest the point as long as they possibly can, as it looks like they are going to go for the contest here, just trying to keep this objective in play as long as possible, as they do get antied as well. Alien falls dangerously low, but is going to get the healing from the Juno, and it's a little bit of a tough situation, as you are going to see Elvin getting a nade kill on Honeybun. Cal Phoenix is sleeping, but I believe they were nanoed as well. You are going to see the Brig kind of swing and just trying to hold as much positioning as possible and just take some damage, or, deal some damage, as the point's going to flip over to the side of Shapeless Abyss early on, and Cal Phoenix finds another pick before getting taken down again. Shapeless Abyss here has a very good amount of ults in their ult bank, coming up on almost 4, but at the same time Leviathans almost have all of theirs, so there's a lot of ults in play, as Honeybun's gonna pop the Blade, is not gonna be able to find a pick. Dusty pops the OC as well. No picks coming from those ults just yet, but it's gonna be interesting to see maybe if they try and just do this as a dry fight, or if you are going to see some more ults popped, as you're seeing the Nano Blade for Leviathans. They're going to find 1, 2, and 3 swinging onto Cal Phoenix, who is just going to decide, all right, just take me down now. And Honeybun is going to get staggered a little bit as Leviathans do win that fight, but they only have 1 ult left, and Shapeless Abyss has a really good sustain ult, and they have a really powerful ult with that Soj OC.
See, that the first fight is exactly what I was talking about before. As soon as Angel fell, it didn't matter that Cal Phoenix also fell. Their team was just unable to sustain itself anymore, and that's why ultimately they failed the point. Abe popping in the coming out with the OC here, trying to find a pick on the 1 boot, but is unable to find it despite the fact that he's an anti.
Yeah, Cal Phoenix is going to pop the Primal in the backline. You do see the Juno ult as well. 1 boot takes down Tolop, so Leviathans have the mana advantage for the time being, as Cal Phoenix here is going to try and take down Eat Yo Bacon. Elvin is going to be able to care for the other support, and they are going to be able to take down Cal Phoenix as well, and the rest of the team is just going to try and back up. But 1 boop here was looking to try and do some early damage, but is going to get slept and is just going to try and, you know, kite back and keep an eye out on where the teams are going to try and push out from to hopefully try and disrupt some of their momentum. And you do have the Nano on the side of Shapeless Abyss that is available. You're going to be coming up on a Blade as well. So it's going to be interesting to see, as the Nano is going to go to Cal Phoenix, and they get slept by Alvin. Yo Bacon's going to fall here as they were low and ran towards the line of sight for Cal Phoenix, but definitely a good sleep there from Alvin that is going to at least remove a lot of the potential damage that that Primal could potentially you know, wreak havoc with. And 1 boop tries to contest the payload, but I think they get pushed off, and it flips for the side of Shapeless Abyss.
I mean, like, you really, if you're Leviathans, you really have to peel for your supports and not let them get destroyed like that. This Ana Juno composition is only good as long as they're alive. I mean, and I know that sounds really redundant to say, but that's the truth. You're at a severe disadvantage if you're not playing the Lucio or the Brig or even the Lifeweaver just to help peel for the other support.
Honeybun's gonna pop the Blade, is gonna take down Elvin first, is trying to find Dusty, doesn't have the dash to be able to potentially kill Dusty in the process, as Dusty pops an OC of their own, is able to take down Cal Phoenix and is looking for the next pick, almost takes down Honeybun, but Honeybun uses the deflect to keep themselves alive, but they are eventually gonna fall to Alien.
Okay, so now if you're Leviathans, you have to stabilize. Make sure your supports are positioned correctly for far enough back, but also within the line of sight. EU Bacon getting forced back into this room already, putting his team at a different disadvantage because now they're out of his line of sight and he's given it up voluntarily.
Yeah, you are going to see the Blade of Alien coming in, but they are antied, so they do get taken down from Valid, who just starts swinging, hoping to be able to get the pick, as now Leviathans are down to 2 members left. The only person left is Dusty, who's dealing with a Tracer, and Shapeless Abyss are going to be able to push this payload closer and closer to this final 3rd point, and now the question is going to be how long you can stall, as 1 boop does have the mines. Definitely a good ult for this scenario, but how long are you going to be able to stall the payload for to at least try and force an OT, worst comes to worst, or even to, you know, flip it over to your side, as you see the Primal Rage come out as well as a Nano. 1 boop here still trying to find anybody that he can, looking at the Tracer primarily, but is going to pop the mines just to try and clear some space for their team. Dusty taking on this Tracer duel, but is not going to be able to take them down just yet. Cal Phoenix trying to stay on the payload and just clear bodies. Honeybun is fairly low, but is going to start focusing on Alien as they get hacked, and that's going to be 3 points for Shapeless Abyss with 15 seconds left for OT.
Now, despite the fact that they got to third point, 15 seconds is a killer time bank. Even though in overtime it will bump up a little bit. Holding for that long is still impressive and should not be demoralizing for the side of Leviathans.
Yeah.
Now, if Leviathans decide to play the same thing, they're probably gonna have an easier time here. Now, since Leviathan's comp wants to play a lot more proactively than Shapeless's comp, they're gonna have an easier time. They're gonna have an easier time keeping people off of their supports because they're gonna be too busy fighting the people that are on their supports. Now, if you're Leviathans, what you have to do is you have to really play rotations because you're faster. Let Cal Phoenix, let Honeybun, let Ave use their movement cooldowns, and then just run away. Then they've got nothing. Now, I want to point out the composition on the side of Leviathans here, and it looks like we're going a little crazy here today. We got Alien on the Widowmaker. We got Dusty and Alvin for to make a killer flyer combo.
Yeah,
let's see how this first map picks up.
This is going to be an interesting combo. I mean, even if you think about it, EO Bacon is a fairly good character for keeping airbound, as Alien is going to switch over to the Genji now, but I'm very curious to see how this Echo is going to be able to deal with this kind of team setup, as really your main concerns as a flying hero are probably going to be the Soj and the Ana. Those are really your main threats, as Dusty is going to be able to do a lot of damage onto the support backline and take down Cal Phoenix. The tank is down early in this fight, and Honeybun's gonna fall too. So Dusty finding 2 early picks. Elvin is going to be able to res the Juno that was taken down in that fight, and that's basically going to be the first objective capped for Leviathans, and Dusty's almost got a dupe.
Echo is a very good pick into this. While there are clear counters in Ana and Sojourn, having the Sojourn shoot at you constantly means that she's not building up rail as much, because she's not super focused on the or building up as consistently, because she's not shooting at the ball at all.
That's true, and you also have to factor in, as you are going to see the Ana dupe and immediately gets deleted, but you have to factor in with the sticky nades from Echo. You can put those in the general direction of the supports, because you know that Valid and Tolop with this Ana Brig combo are going to stay relatively close together, as Cal Phoenix is going to get Nano just to try and stay alive, is trying to take down Alien, is going to be able to find a Mega to keep them alive, and Alien is going to fall from the right click, as now One Boop is going to come back with their team and just kind of try and stay closer to their spawn to regroup, as Alien is going to be able to come back into the fight. And One Boop's pretty close to the mines as well, so they are going to be able to use that to get a decent amount of space if they need it.
Okay, so now if I'm Leviathans here, my first thought is we take this fight fast. Don't let the Cal Phoenix get an opportunity to jump on our backline, because we're already on his. And it looks like that's exactly what they're attempting to go for here.
Honeybun takes down EO Bacon, but Alien finds Honeybun as well in the fight. Elvin does lose the Valk, but is going to be able to stay alive just barely on 30 HP. Elvin is dangerously low and is going to get taken down by Cal Phoenix finally, but Ave falls from the mines, and the payload isn't being pushed, but you're keeping Shapeless Abyss in a really tough position. They're not really able to move much, but the payload was just kind of stagnant for most of that time.
It begs the question that if holding that space was actually worth it, because you have to relinquish that space when you go back, and the Duke comes out onto the orbit and trying to find And Alien pops the blade as well, and that's a 3 ult.
That is a lot of ults committed, and Valid pops the rally of their own, but they still have 3 ults to play with. One of them being the primal that they pop right now. Just trying to clear bodies the best they can. Ava's going to swap over to the Cass in the meantime, probably focusing more on trying to take down Dusty, the aerial echo, as Tolop still has a nano and you still have the blade, so you could see a nano blade get popped here, but instead they are going to nano Cal Phoenix, trying to keep them alive and do as much damage as they possibly can. Cal Phoenix is going to be a little bit low, but they are going to get the support, the healing that they need. Now they're just going to try and body block some shots to keep Tolop alive, as Honeybun's trying to stay in this kind of hidden area, potentially looking to be able to use the blade at some point, but they are going to fall before they can pop it. And now there's just going to be, it's just going to be the question of how long this payload is going to be able to be contested, or potentially switch over, as Ava's going to find Elvin, who was in the middle of their Valk, and they are going to get taken down afterwards. Dusty's going to dupe the Brig. You see Honeybun pop the blade and is trying to take down Dusty, but they aren't going to be able to get the final pick. Dusty's at 5 HP, just trying to stay alive as long as they can, but the point flipped over in that process.
Now if you're Shapeless, you have to get that full regroup. Notice how little Leviathans are scared of that backline. This Echo is a very good matchup into it, because as you said before, you're just able to poke out that Brig's shield much faster than she would like you to.
Yeah,
making them set up on this high ground pretty much worthless. Now the swap to the Cassidy is a good way to counter the Echo.
You see the mines get popped, but they are going to take down Tolop. Ave does pop the High Noon and takes down both Dusty and the Mercy. One Boop's the only one left, and they are just going to have to run back to the spawn, but not the worst ult trade when you factor in the mines did find a pick. But Ave, you know, that High Noon takes down both Dusty and Elvin, so you just had to kite back, but you're coming up on this Juno ult, and you've got the blade as well. A pretty good position to be in, but you also have both support ults for Shapeless Abyss. They are gonna sleep one Boop, and Alien gets taken down before they could get any value on the blade. Brig is gonna pop the rally, trying to take down the wrecking ball. They aren't gonna be able to find the final pick, but they will be able to take down Eat Yo Bacon, and the ults that they had just kind of didn't go as planned, as the blade got picked off before it could do any damage, and the Juno ult, which might have been used to sustain, is no longer as effective, considering the blade was taken down. Elvin's gonna switch over to the Moira.
I think the Mercy had overstayed her welcome here on the third point, and wow, some clean shots by Ave onto Dusty, and a one Boop here, getting that early pick onto Dusty and pretty much neutering the fight for Leviathans before it could even begin.
Yeah, this is a really tough situation now, because Ave is popping off on this Cass, and it's really nullifying a lot of the benefit that the Echo is getting for Leviathans right now. I understand why you wouldn't switch it right away, though, because you do have that ult. You do have dupe coming in. You want to at least get that ult popped before you look at switching anything. You do see the anti-nade and the blade coming in. Honeybun is slicing and dicing with the nano blade, and they are going to take down 2, taking down the 3rd as well, and Elvin in the process. Alien's the only one that is still alive for Leviathans, but they're just going to stay by the spawn doors, and now you're approaching less fight territory here with 10 seconds to go, and still a fair amount of progress that you have to get for the Leviathans, as 10 seconds remaining. The mines get popped. They are not going to be able to find a pick off of the slam, but Eat Yo Bacon is going to fall fairly Eat Yo Bacon is going to find a pick onto the Cass. Dusty's going to switch over to the Genji, but now you have to worry about Cal Phoenix with the Primal, just trying to clear anybody that they can and get some picks, as Cal Phoenix is not going to fall. They were dangerously low, but they are able to survive, as now it's just a question of how long You can contest the payload if you're the Leviathans if you're not able to win this fight, as you see the ball rolling as much as they can, but you're not going to be able to contest.
And that is an unfortunate unfortunate team loss from a map loss from the side of the Leviathans. The issue was once Ave swapped that Cassidy, they were very slow to adapt. It took them too many team fights to realize that Ave was too much of a legitimate threat to stay on that Echo any longer. Flying characters are generally very neutered on indoor parts of maps, or indoor maps in general. So really, if you were Leviathans, you really had to realize that, okay, once we make it indoors, this can't work anymore. And honestly, Shapeless's alt usage has been immaculate throughout this entire series so far.
Yeah, honestly,
however, though,
it's been really impressive from both.
Despite the scores, it neglects to show how close it really was in map.
Yeah,
it's just Shapeless has that sharp Shapeless has that sharp edge in being a little bit faster to adapt and realize the weaknesses of the positioning, the weaknesses in the position of Leviathans. And honestly, I really think that's Shapeless's strength as a team in general. Not only do they have really solid players, their players see the vision and see ahead of time. Now Leviathans, though, when Leviathans are knocked down, they are very well known to pick themselves back up in a rage. So I really think that Shapeless should be very worried about Flashpoint here.
Yeah, Flashpoint is gonna be an interesting map, especially considering the fact Flashpoint is known for basically being a momentum switch for a lot of teams.
And both of these maps severely favored the ball over anything else. Yes, Shapeless could swap to a Queen comp and maybe have a little bit of an advantage over them. But there's not much that you can play into this ball. On either of these Flashpoint maps that are really going to give you a competitive edge that isn't just strategic. Now, I know Leviathans very well. They are a very good Flashpoint team. So if Shapeless is gonna coast and say, you know what, we know what we're doing here, and not try to improve further, they're gonna get a very rude awakening on this Flashpoint map here. So let's shape up to see what we're gonna think. What do you think we're gonna see here? Like, honestly, I think both are very valid options.
I don't know. I do see Nyx in the Twitch chat. I like the mention of the schlunk rat, as they call it. I can see it working. I'm surprised they didn't try it on control, because I feel like a lot of the control maps are a lot better for a Junkrat to play in, but yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what they kind of do here to try and adapt, as of now, both teams are on a 5-minute break. We always have a 5-minute break between the hybrid and Flashpoint map. So we don't have any info on the map pick just yet. Side pick isn't going to be a factor, but you know, there's Flashpoint is known to flip momentum, which is good for the Leviathans, but as of now, you also have to factor in Shapeless only needs one map to close this game out.
So are we gonna so we will go on, since they are going to break, we'll go on a quick break here.
Yep.
We'll meet you back in a few.
Yeah. So we will return when we have the map pick, at least. Yeah, be right back. All right.
Welcome back, everybody.
Welcome back. Yeah. We have the map pick. It's Saravasa.
I mean, I feel like that's a pretty expected map to go through here. Saravasa seems to be the comfort map for a lot of people on Flashpoint, and honestly, the ball is going to do a lot of damage on the side of Shapeless. The issue with Saravasa and playing into a ball comp here is almost every single point. Every single point except for the first one has an opportunity for boops, and I know one boop will be looking for them. Especially going to
It's in
Temple
the name.
and I mean, yeah. Temple, Palace, and Gardens are just Temple and Gardens are known very well for their poops. So if Shapeless is going to have to pull out something we're going to probably have to pull out this Ram comp here in order to give one boop a run for his money. Now,
true.
On Flashpoint, it's very the fights are very volatile. If even one person is put out of position on the side of Shapeless, then what's it called? Then Leviathans win the fight automatically. If Leviathans mess up their engagement timings at any point at any time, if they're going to play into this Ram comp, that means that Shapeless wins this comp, that wins the fight. So really look out for very volatile, very flippy fights here, and I think this is going to be a very good watch. And it looks like
okay. I don't want to say it, but you know, the Schlunk Rat was mentioned. But now Abe's going on Junkrat instead, and Schlow's not in the map. Aw. I shouldn't have said anything.
Oh, we got baited.
I got baited.
I was so excited for the Junkrat, bro.
Well, Schlunkrat lives another day. Abe's not taken the spot yet, so we are going to see the venture from Dab Every Day. Dab Every Day is going to come back into the match as well. But besides that, seems to be the standard comp that you would expect from Leviathans. You do see Eat Yo Bacon going over to the Kiri instead of the Juno. And Cal Phoenix is on the Queen instead of the Ramatra like you had suggested. So let's see how this works out as Flashpoint is open. And early on, Dusty is going to try and take somebody down. One Boop's going to find two picks onto the Genji and the Lucio. Cal Phoenix is going to take down the Venture, but One Boop takes down Ave as well, and it looks like the Leviathans are going to get the first the first payload, or the first point progress, excuse me, on Flashpoint, as you kind of see. One thing I noticed with this, it's not a clear-cut fight end like you see in maybe the Div 4 or Div 5 teams. A lot of these just feel like prolonged fights, as Cal Phoenix is going to be dangerously low. It does not have the shout, and is going to get taken down by the Kiri with the help of the Venture.
And that's the difficulty. And you pointing that out shows like points out the actual difficulty with playing this Queen comp into the ball comp. Even though you're playing the Brawl, you're on the side of Shapeless.
Yeah,
Leviathans actually want to maintain this fight because they have the double flex and have the resources. So really, realistically, Leviathans is playing the brawlier comp.
Yeah, Valid here, dangerously low, trying to stay alive as long as they can, is not going to be able to, but Cal Phoenix is going to be able to come back and at least find a pick onto the Venture, but time is ticking. Ave's going to be able to contest, at least temporarily, along with the Kiri. But Cal Phoenix has an ult that could very much try and turn this fight in their favor. It's just going to be a question of if they're going to be able to get to the point to use it, and it looks like they are, as One Boop is just going to try and get away at this given time. Just, you know, let the point go over to the side of Shapeless Abyss temporarily and try and regroup with a lot of ults in hand, but almost the exact same amount for Shapeless Abyss, so it's probably going to be an ult battle, but the question is going to be which ults are going to come out on top here. Kill Phoenix forced to use the shout early. They are going to find the care that they need, as you are going to see 2 ults coming in right away. You see the beat popped as well. Deb Everyday is going to use their ult. They're not going to be able to find a pick with it either. Dusty is going to find a pick onto Honeybun. One Boop is going to pop the mines. The Kiri is going to look to try and take some damage as they pop deal some damage as they pop the Kitsune Rush of their own. And now Dusty very close to death, but is going to be able to survive with the care from Elvin on the Moira, as the flashpoint is going to go to the side of the Leviathans, and the next flashpoint is going to be Garden.
Now, see, that first point take is really going to show. It's really going to show what they want, and they're going to swap to the Mauga.
You see the Mauga and the Cass. Me and
Shapeless Abyss saying, okay, we're not going to beat them on the Queen comp. Let's beat them with some sustain. And it looks like their entire goal is just we're gonna live. Now Leviathans is going to have a very difficult time.
We have Leviathans a pause.
Well, I guess while we're paused, I'm gonna talk about this.
Yeah, go for it.
Now, Leviathans is going to have a very difficult time dealing with the hyper sustain comp. These dive spikes are going to have a very hard time. While Leviathans is pretty brawly or pretty sustaining as it goes, Shapeless' comp is just tankier.
True.
And they're going to have a very hard time executing these dive spikes against all of these heroes that just don't like to die. I mean, Mauga obviously doesn't like to die.
Yeah.
Cassidy has 275 HP in a roll. Kiriko can just TP or Suzu away, and then Lucio, you're lucky if you even see him.
True.
So if you're Leviathans, it's all about baiting out rotations.
True.
And catching people off guard.
Mm-hmm.
Letting people go there, letting people go, leading someone to go there, and then going the other direction.
Yeah,
and that's when you trade.
For this first fight, I feel like the Leviathans will probably be able to at least take this first fight, but it's going to be interesting to see how they kind of adjust for the rest of the fights, because you do have the Coalescence for the Leviathans along with the Blade. They have a Blade to counteract as well for Honeybun for Shapeless Abyss, but you know, it's going to be a question. If you get a lot of value with your Blade from Honeybun, you might be able to take down Elvin before they can pop a Coalescence, and that Coalescence can be a deciding factor of how long your team is going to be able to survive a fight. As you know, that's going to be the big question. You can at least tell there's a lot of players on the point currently for the side of the Leviathans, so they are fairly grouped up, which isn't necessarily the best option for, you know, considering you have a Blade that might get popped. With everybody grouped up, that Blade's going to get a lot of damage as it slices and dices.
However, I do want to point out that One Boop did get the pick on Valid right before the pause. So even though this Blade is actually a real threat, are they actually gonna invest it? Because this fight is pretty much lost without Valid, to be completely honest with you. And also,
that's a valid question.
I also do want to say something.
That wasn't even intentional.
That was awful.
That was horrible. I'm gonna get fired.
I do also want to point out that if Shapeless ever takes this first point, Leviathans is going to have a very difficult time taking it back.
Right.
Since Leviathan's comp is dependent upon speed and catching rotations, all Shapeless has to do if they win the point is just don't rotate. Let them come into them and die, and they'll int into them every single time without fail.
True. So then that does bring up the question, even though that you are down Valid, do you pop the Blade to just try and win this point? Or do you try and save it and hope that you can come back with more ults maybe later on and flip it to your side, and then kind of try and do that same strat as well later on?
Realistically, I think that's in Shapeless's best interest, because even if the Blade doesn't get anything, it's most likely gonna force an ultimate from the side of Leviathans. Leviathans might get spooked and just say,
True.
"Oh shit, we gotta pop the coalescence, or
Yeah,
I'm gonna
exactly.
counterblade and clean up. And that even though they lose that fight, it's actually worth it.
Yeah, that's the big question. As I guess in the meantime, we're just gonna go over to the map scores while we wait for the pause to kind of finish. From what I can tell, I believe it's a internet issue.
That is very unfortunate.
From what I can tell, it might be ping issues. I know that yesterday we had a fairly similar scenario with ping issues in the last match that we actually showed prior to this stream. In the Div 2 matchup, one of the tanks was talking about, hey, I'm having like a bunch of ping spikes. Is it possible that, you know, someone's able to swap in for me if I am having a huge amount of ping? So, I mean, it's definitely not something you can rule out in this situation, because it happened yesterday for a couple different people. It might be the situation here, but we'll have to wait and see.
Do you want to go to break while we wait for them to come back?
Let me double check just to see. Okay, so it does look like they were able to reconnect. Yeah. So
all right, well, sounds good.
Yeah, we should be getting into the match right about now. So here we go. Cal Phoenix is going to dive in and is going to get taken down right away. So I guess scratch everything that we were talking about, as Cal Phoenix and Ave get taken down super fast. And now point early progress is going to go over to Leviathans, and the Leviathans definitely have the ult advantage in this situation for the ult economy, but you also have to factor in that now they have to try and figure out how to deal with this Maga, as Elvin's gonna pop the Coalescence, Dusty's gonna pop the Blade, and is gonna find both of the supports with the help of the team and take down Honeybun as well. Ave does find Dusty in the meantime, and it was relatively close on High Noon, but Cal Phoenix, the only one that was able to really get to the point, and is gonna get taken down really early. So that's gonna be a bit of a stagger actually for the Shapeless Abyss in their ability to try and contest this point, as it's already at 80% and counting, as mines are going to get popped fairly early, trying to remove as much space as possible. Honeybun's going to pop the Blade and is going to take down One Boop and Dab every day. So those are two very, very crucial picks to get, and Elvin's just left trying to run, but they're not going to be able to escape in time, as a team kill is going to flip the point over for Shapeless Abyss.
Now this is very scary for the side of Leviathans. The execution required to actually take back from Shapeless is going to be very difficult unless Shapeless positions poorly. Leviathans has to make pretty much several perfect plays, and they pop the
get taken down early, which is going to be very difficult for Shapeless Abyss, because that was the ult that you had available right away, and now the High Noon isn't part of the equation. The point's going to flip over, and no one's really going to be able to contest in time. So Shapeless Abyss are not going to get that point. It's going to go over to the Leviathans, and now you have to just get ready for the next point and hope that you can try and, you know, win the point early to try and continue this map and potentially look at getting a 3-0 victory, but the odds are not in your favor currently. One Boop is really close to the mines here, is going to be able to take down Ave with the help of their team. Cal Phoenix is dangerously low and is going to fall as well. Honeybun's the only one left, and Dusty's going to try and chase them here, looking at getting a pick. Both of them are going to fall very low. Honeybun is going to have the deflect to keep them alive, and the Kiriko is going to be able to TP and help them out here, but Shapeless Abyss, even though they don't have point progress early, they have a lot of ults to play with, and you know, a Q battle is most likely in the plan, as Cal Phoenix is gonna pop the cage. Abe's gonna pop the high noon and get 2. Beats popped as well. Dusty pops the blade, but is gonna fall. One Boop pops the mines too, and now One Boop's just gonna try and stall as long as they can, but to no avail, as they're just gonna have to try and run back and stay alive, as the rest of their team is gonna be able to regroup. And Honeybun is still close to that ult, and Kitsune Rush is available. The Coalescence is gonna get popped early on from Elvin to try and get some value and switch the payload, the point over to their side. The blade is gonna get popped. They're trying to find a pick, but they don't get one. Eo Bacon does have the Kitsune Rush in hand, and Tolop has the Kitsune Rush as well, so you could see mirror ults in this case, but so far it looks like Shapeless Abyss is going to be in a bit of a tough position to contain or continue contesting the payload, as Cal Phoenix has 3 HP and is going to fall. One Boop gets a pick early on, forces Tolop to pop the Kitsune Rush, but Shapeless Abyss is not going to be able to contest that 3rd point, so Leviathans take map 3, remove the 3-0 possibility, and now we're going to go to Escort. And as a couple people have been mentioning in chat, you have the possibility of a reverse sweep for the Leviathans now.
Now like you mentioned before, Flashpoint is very known for flipping the momentum around, and Leviathan showed that they have mastered this game mode, and I don't think that's an exaggeration to say so. That is a very, very decisive win on the side of Leviathans. Their understanding of engagement timings and their positioning on Flashpoint as a whole really made Shapeless Abyss very uncomfortable going into it. So much so that they couldn't quite figure out what they wanted to do and their objectives of doing so.
Yeah.
Now it's time for the pick. It's time for the map pick of Shapeless.
Yeah, so they're gonna go over to Escort.
If I'm Shapeless Abyss here, I'm thinking, oh crap, we can't let that ball run over us again. Let's take him to Havana.
You're going Havana.
Ball is great on Suit 366. Okay on Shambali, but terrible on Havana. Ball honestly has a very tough time on every single point except for the second one.
Okay.
So, if I'm Shapeless here, I think, okay, you know what? We got Ave, our cracked aimer. Let's cook up something a little bit spicy. Make Leviathans regret picking that ball comp here. And it'll be up for Leviathans to decide, you know what? Are we gonna take him to we're gonna win with the ball, or are we gonna switch it up?
Yeah, we do have the map pick here.
Oh, what do we got?
It's gonna be Shambali.
Oh, now this is gonna be rough. Shambali is a fake poke map, where it looks like, you know what, these long sightlines are great. We're gonna poke them out, and they're not gonna be able to run up on us. But secretly, Ball works very well on all 3 of these points, simply because it lacks one thing that Havana doesn't. The one thing that Havana lacks is different routes. Shambali on all 3 points has different ways for you to rotate to take high ground, which enables this Ball to do everything that he needs to do. Doesn't really matter what Shapeless plays here. They have to play very tight and understand that they're not as safe as they think they are.
Okay. Now, I was going to mention it in the last match. Sadly, that match was just so action-packed. I didn't really have a time to be able to mention it, just as a little bit of a joke. But me and Dusty were talking recently and we were tempted to try and commission Nyx, who does do a fair amount of art and does do a fair amount of the emotes that we have around the server, and I mean even in the Twitch chat. We were tempted to try and commission Nyx to make a meme emote of Maga doing the PogChamp face, so it's MogChamp. Thought I would mention that because we saw Maga last map, and if only we had that emote now, as that would have been funny to see chat using.
Nyx, I will Nyx, send me your what's it called? Send me your Venmo and I'll your Zelle, and I'll finance this.
Nyx is in the Twitch chat, so they definitely heard that too. So there you go, Nyx. That idea will be financed now, as we are gonna see.
I will finance MogChamp because I think that's funny.
Yay! So we are going to see the typical comp here for the Leviathans, basically the same thing from the last map. For Shapeless Abyss, we are going to see the Soj, we see the Tracer, we see the Ram, the Juno, and the Bap. I don't think we've seen much Bap so far, but I've always liked Bap as a hero for support. I've always found the lamp, depending on when you use it, can be huge. No,
however, Bap is a terrible matchup into ball here.
Yeah, into ball, not the best, but we'll see.
We'll see. Now, Leviathans know this map very well. Let's hope that Shapeless shares that same map knowledge and are able to all play them.
So, we are going to see OneBoop's going to try and deal a bit of damage and move the mess with the space that the supports have. Elvin's gonna fall from Honeybun. Dusty's gonna remove the lamp and take down the Bap as well. Valid is the only support left and is also dangerously low. Honeybun is gonna fall as well, and now the Venture here is going to be able to find the pick onto Cal Phoenix. Is not going to be able to find a pick onto Valid yet, as they are just out of their range, but Venture's mobility is going to make it so that they are going to fall eventually. So now, you know, if you're Leviathan, sorry, I'm cutting you off a bunch here. If you're Shapeless Abyss, you're going to have to just kind of prepare for probably the second point of this map. I don't know if you're going to be able to contest.
Oh my god, my bad. Like I said, Leviathans is Leviathans knows that this map is very good for ball, and it doesn't look like Shapeless knew that too. They were not prepared for how quickly and how easily Leviathans were able to take first point from them.
True, and now OneBoop does have the mines, but they're not gonna be able to use it just yet, as a lot of their team did fall early on to that fight, but not a lot of payload progress left that they're gonna have to worry about. And I mean, OneBoop is gonna pop the mines now. The mines are gonna do a fair amount of damage to Cal Phoenix, even though they are in the punches for him, but the question's gonna be how fast Cal Phoenix is gonna be able to build up this ult, and they're not gonna be able to build it up in time. The payload is gonna switch over to Leviathans, and the payload progress is going to continue for Leviathans, as OneBoop is going to take down Ave, and Honeybun is fighting with this Venture, and the ball is going to be able to come in to at least finalize the pick. And now, I mean, Leviathans have a lot of ults coming up. Both teams do.
Shapeless is not Shapeless. Now if you're Shapeless, you have to think here, okay, what is this ball doing here? Why are they tearing us apart so hard? They need to adapt in a way. They need to give their supports a peel.
And Valid's gonna fall very early, which is difficult because now you lose the orbit, and Cal Phoenix is gonna pop the Ram ult, but the Ram ult is going to run out, and you still have to worry about the Venture ult, and OneBoop's almost back to the mines, and it felt like they really only used it last fight, and they're already at 80%, so This ball is getting immense value. Honeybun is going to try and look to see if anybody's going to try and flank, but doesn't seem to be the plan just yet. But they weren't expecting the flank from this side, as Venture is going to pop the ult and take down the BAP. And now Dab Every Day, just being a menace in the backline, is going to draw the attention from Ave, and that's going to help the Leviathans a lot, because now the team's distracted. They have to worry about two different angles, and the rest of the team is going to fall. Cal Phoenix is going to try and unleash punches onto one boop, but they're in a really rough position here. The BAP window is going to come into play, and at least going to be able to keep Cal Phoenix alive for a fair bit longer. Ava's going to pop the OC and take down one boop and Dusty. So despite the progress, they are not going to be able to get to the second point for payload just yet, but they are knocking on that door with just like 4 meters roughly away from capping it to second.
Something I want you to notice here is that Shapeless has this ult advantage here. So if Shapeless plays this correctly, they just win another team fight pretty easily. Now, it's all down to execution though, and Dusty is coming up on that blade.
Yeah, and Dusty's gonna get taken down from Honeybun. So the blade is not gonna be able to be much of a factor in this team fight, and Cal Phoenix has already gone to the punches mode, but it makes sense as they're already almost at the Ramatra ult, which they now have access to, and that's going to be a very big factor in trying to solidify and win this team fight with just about a minute left. Dusty here, 6% to the blade, is going to look to try and farm it and get it as fast as they possibly can. They are going to get it as Valid is going to get taken down. The blade's going to get popped. They're looking at the BAP. They do force out the lamp, and they are not able to take down the BAP in time, but they do take down the Brig, which means one of the two supports were down fairly early. One boop is going to fall here, and Dab Every Day has both of the DPS focused on them, and only have 20 seconds left, and you're down two of your heroes on your team. You're tanking your DPS. So now it's just going to be a question of, can they contest in time? The ball is going to be one of your best bets. The Tracer is able to touch momentarily, and the ball is going to make it so that they are going to be able to at least contest a force into OT. Elvin is going to get stuck from the pulse, but is not going to die from it, as they get picked off ahead of time. Cal Phoenix is going to pop the ult of their own, but they are not going to be able to find much value as they get taken down fairly early. Valid is going to pop the rally, and they're going to be trying to look to deal some damage onto the ball, but they're not going to be able to yet. Ave is going to pop the OC of their own. They're going to find two. Tolop's going to be able to take down the ball, and that's going to do it for the attack of Leviathans. Not able to cap the second point, but they are very close. At this point, you have to cap that second point if you are Shapeless Abyss, because they are decimal points away from capping it.
Now, okay. Now, if you're Leviathans here, you can't let that dissuade you. Even though that's a little heartbreaking. Leviathans has shown that they know this map inside and out and are able to take and are Shapeless took Leviathans to their house. Let's be real with you. Let's be real with it. Real quick. However, if you're Leviathans, you cannot let that that early victory and that confidence take you over. And Leviathan's opting for the Ramatra here instead of the ball. Then Shapeless Abyss.
This is the first time one boop has went to something other than ball in this match. I don't want to say it just yet because they haven't dropped down and they're going back to the spawn doors. They're okay. One boop, make up your mind, man. Baited. Don't
We're
make
just
me
getting
here.
baited.
It happened on the Flashpoint map. Don't bait me. Okay, so they are gonna stick with the Ram the first time we see a hero other than tank played for one boop. And Shapeless Abyss has the Widow along with the Tracer, and they're gonna be running the Zen. They haven't. That's a pretty nasty angle. And they're gonna switch over to the Juno after, but man, that is a pretty good angle. Take notes. So now,
definitely not one that you see every day.
Yeah, you don't see it every day. And now, one boop on the Ram, trying to face off with Cal Phoenix here just for early payload progress. And honestly, there's no one consolidated spot for fights. There's a couple going around as Dusty's gonna try and get rid of the lamp early from Tolop and is gonna try and find a pick onto them, but isn't gonna be able to in time. Elvin here is gonna try and keep keep One Boop alive, as Cal Phoenix is kind of the main target for One Boop at this moment. Honeybun is relatively close to the pulse, but Dab Every Day on this cast has been getting a lot of ult progress and a lot of value so far. They are going to take down the lamp, and they are really close to high noon as Dusty's building up the blade, and we really haven't seen a pick yet. There hasn't been a pick that's really happened, as Dab Every Day is going to opt to use the high noon for reload, as Honeybun is going to try and deal some damage to them, but they're going to be able to run in time. And now you have two ults coming up for Shapeless Abyss. You've got the pulse, but you've got the window, which is going to be very helpful. Eat Yo Bacon is going to pop the Kiri ult of their own. The pulse is not going to find a pick, and Dab Every Day and One Boop are going to find two picks to kind of keep this fight towards their benefit. And now One Boop is just going to try and find Ave and Tolop, trying to get back to spawn, but they're going to be able to live in time. So now Dusty here is going to be coming back to the fight, has a blade to potentially use worst comes to worst. Ave is going to pop the OC with the BAP window, a deadly combination, and it's going to do a lot of damage onto One Boop. You do see the Coalescence popped from Elvin, and Cal Phoenix is gonna pop the Ram ult and die in the process. So Dab Every Day has the high noon again, is gonna take down Valid, and they're not gonna have to use that high noon or the blade, as they're gonna win that team fight. And now One Boop along with Elvin are, coming back to the fight. Or I'm sorry, not Elvin, but yeah, they're all coming back to the fight. But you've got another question mark to deal with for the Leviathans, as Valid has this Juno ult, as the blade's gonna come in early from Dusty, trying to find a pick. They are gonna be able to deflect the missiles from Valid, but they're not gonna be able to find a kill confirm with it, as Juno's gonna pop the ult. You see the high noon get popped from Dab Every Day, just trying their best to space people away, and Cal Phoenix is gonna get taken down from the high noon. Honeybun falls dangerously low, is gonna be able to recall in time. Ave falls in that fight. Honeybun tries to stick the pulse, is not gonna be able to find a kill with it, and you have 15 seconds left for Shapeless Abyss, and they still haven't kept the first point. The clock is ticking. Eat Yo Bacon has the Kiri ult. They are going to pop the Kitsune Rush early on. Tolop the closest to getting an ult for Shapeless Abyss, but they're going to fall to Dusty. And now it's just a question of how long can you stay on this payload for Shapeless Abyss, and can you get it to potentially capping this first point, as they are going to win the team fight. And now they have to worry about how far they can push this before the team gets back, before Leviathans get back. But sorry, I guess I was completely mixed up, as Leviathans win the team fight. Shapeless are not going to be able to push I'm losing my voice now, holy. But Leviathans are going to take the fourth map. The reverse sweep is becoming more and more possible, as we're going to map 5.
Now I want to point something out here. Now Shapeless has shown prowess in taking advantage of weaknesses of Leviathans. However, Shapeless has not been very good at picking maps for Leviathans. Let's be honest here.
Yeah, fair enough.
Shapeless took, like I said, Shapeless took Leviathans to their house. Leviathans showed, number one, first of all, showed their dominance in saying, "Hey, we're still in the game with Soravas with a very decisive game." And then on Shambali, they showed Shapeless, "Hey, it ain't over yet. It ain't over until it's over."
It's not over until it's over, and now we're gonna go to the map pool.
Still kicking.
This is the second time we've seen Push on stream. We've seen Colosseo before. We have not seen Runasapi or New Queen Street. So what map do you go for if you're Shapeless Abyss? What's your first pick?
That is very difficult. All three of these push maps have an insanely good matchup for ball, especially Runasapi. For Runasapi and especially New Queen Street. Colosseo is going to be a little rough for Leviathans. However, I'm sure Leviathans are more than practiced on Colosseo and know how to play this year. It will definitely be up to Shapeless to not only pick a map that suits them, but pick a map that suits the comp that best fits their comp and counters the enemy comp as much as they possibly can here, because the ball is very much at home. Did they pick New Queen Street?
No, that's. I just read Twitch chat.
What happened?
No, that's so true, and that's such a pain for Dusty. It's just the message Dusty's first ever map 5 on stream, and in brackets, he isn't casting it. Oh no, Dusty!
No 3 Overwatch today!
Oh no!
Mods, somebody VIP Zyora. Slash VIP. Oh, I can do that. Slash VIP Zyora.
We're gonna. I'm at least taking a screenshot of it. We'll put that. I'm not gonna in a clip somewhere.
I'm not actually. You know what? Like, I'm gonna Zyora.
We get a map 5 when Dusty isn't casting. Oh, Dusty's catching strays.
God. Dude, Zyora. Hit me up on Discord. I'll Venmo you $5.
Oh, and now Nyx is joining in, who's a caster and plays for Leviathans, just responding for the second time. We get a map 5 when Dusty isn't casting. We do have the map pick, and it's ironic that I mentioned Nyx as fellow Canadian. We are going to New Queen Street.
Oh, now this is gonna be very rough. This is gonna be very rough for the side of Shapeless here. Let's hope that they know this map better than Leviathans.
Yeah, and that might be a little bit tough, but Nyx isn't in the match, so you don't have the Canadian blood that
no Canada buff.
Yeah, you don't have the Canada buff. But this is the tiebreaker map to decide.
Leviathans went to Paraíso, had no Nyx, and they lost. I mean, that's all I'm saying. No Brazil buff, no Canada buff. Like Nyx really holding down the team with her ethnicity.
And this is gonna be interesting. Honey Bun's on the Pharah. I'm not gonna say.
Cal Phoenix taking the ball mirror.
I'm not saying anything yet because they haven't moved much, and I was baited on Flashpoint. The Pharah might be a good pick if Honey Bun decides to stick with it. They are, but now your main concern is going to be that cast, and we have a ball mirror.
My worry, though, for the side of Leviathans is that this cast is going to be overloaded. It's not going to know whether to stun the ball or shoot the Pharah, and that's going to be very difficult for him to adapt to.
Yeah, that will be the big question, and I guess we'll see what they decide to go with, as Honeybun is gonna get taken down in 3. So 3 shots and a pick, and Dab every day almost gets taken off of the map. But Cal Phoenix is gonna fall and Ave is low. So early on, progress is gonna be going to Leviathans. And it's still early on. I think after this team fight is going to be the big decision for the side of Shapeless Abyss on if they need to make any switches, because you don't want to commit too long and potentially force yourself into one specific hand, as Honeybun is very low and is going to get taken down by 1 boop. And Cal Phoenix is dangerously low, getting chased by 1 boop as well, and they're gonna fall as well. Ave 15% away from the pulse, and it looks like Honeybun's gonna stick with the Pharah.
What's clear to me is this Pharah only really works if these engagement timings are planned out well. Now, Shapeless Abyss, I'm not saying Cal Phoenix is a bad player or any means, but it looks like that he doesn't quite understand the engagement timings to the same degree that Leviathans does, and that's why that first team fight was lost.
Ooh, Elvin almost falls, but the Kiri cleanse is going to be able to keep them alive. Honeybun is going to fall early as well. Honeybun switching over to the Genji, and now Honeyboop's just 1 boop's just gonna try and move the bot a little bit and stall as they're waiting for the rest of their team to come back, and now they're just gonna be able to kite away and get back to the rest of their team. I understand why Honeybun would make the switch over to Genji here. When you're playing that Pharah, especially with this comp, you have to deal with that Cass, and you also have to deal with the Moira, who's gonna be able to do a lot of value. But we're gonna see how this goes now, as Cal Phoenix is going to try and take down Dab every day, but Dab every day is going to take down the Tracer. The beat is going to get popped, but it really only went to Tolop from what I could see, as Tolop's going to fall, and the cleanup is going to... The cleanup from the help of the Kiri is going to be really beneficial, as now payload, or the push bot, is going closer to the side of Leviathans now. But no team has made it yet to that halfway point for the spawn differentials. As Dusty finds a pick onto the Tracer, and Yo Bacon pops the Kitsune Rush. Just try and solidify this halfway point from what I can tell.
This forward spawn is a very difficult very difficult for any team to hold, but especially for this really fast ball comp to play up against, especially if they're set up super early.
And here you see the High Noon. It's gonna take down the ball, as the Cass is gonna get some help from Elvin to stay alive, and Elvin's gonna be able to take down Valid as well in this kind of back line. And 65 meters and counting, front spawn as well. And this ball duel isn't going as well as you thought it would at first. Dusty's dangerously low, but the Kiri cleanse plus the healing and the deflect are going to keep them alive. Cal Phoenix is going to pop mines, but the 1 boop is just going to counter them with some mines of their own, and they're going to be able to grab a bit of health to stay alive a bit longer. And 1 boop's going to find a pick with the mines that they popped. Valid's going to switch over to the Brig, and Cal is going to switch over to the Winston now. Dusty here is going to be looking to get the blade, is taking down the Ana first, is not going to be able to take down the Kiri right away, but the Nano Blade from Honeybun was able to be popped before the Ana died, and they are going to get taken down from 1 boop's roll. But Cal Phoenix, who just kind of tried to use the push bot as a distraction, is going to have to kite back, as the team is able to kind of take note of it and get back and try and deal with that. And now one group's just gonna have to try and get back to their team.
Now, your Leviathans, despite the fact of being such a high lead, they have 4 minutes left, so there's a lot of games still left to be played. So Leviathans cannot get too comfortable.
EO Bacon pops the Kitsune Rush. Elvin does have a Coalescence to use here, and the push bot is still going, and it's fairly close to the Shapeless Abyss spawn. So EO Bacon's gonna find a pick onto Tolop. Elvin's gonna pop the Coalescence to just try and keep them as close to their spawn doors as they can. Tab Every Day is gonna take down Ave, who arguably was gonna be one of your main characters to try and contest for OT. Honeybun's going to be able to get to the point to contest. Cal Phoenix is there as well. Cal Phoenix's draw is very close to getting the Primal Rage, but they're going to fall before they can get it. Ave on the Soj here is just trying to stay alive as long as they can. Tolop's the last person who'll be able to touch, but they aren't going to be able to. And the Leviathans are going to
get the reverse
sweep.
What a fantastic game to hear today. Leviathans showed they were down but not out. Now, Shapeless should not walk away disappointed or upset because they played insanely well. All 3 maps, all 5 maps, all things considered. And it was close from start to finish. Seriously. Now,
wow.
Now, I mean, let's talk about MVPs here.
Well, can we first just, congrats to both teams. Even though you lost as Shapeless Abyss, like, undefeated for 5 weeks, and you made it to a 3-2 battle. You held on to that as long as you could, and you played some really good Overwatch for that. And now, here's the tough question now. Who do you give MVP to?
That's a great question. I mean, I think everybody put in so much work here. Legitimately, it's very hard for me to pin one person's success. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. Everybody played their part really well. One Boop showed up all 5 maps, putting in the work. The supports adapting and getting things done. Especially the EO Bacon is a Juno one trick. The fact that he switched off of Juno to play Kiriko and that
cleanse on the 5th map.
I mean, yeah. Then you have Dusty giving a consistently amazing performance. Alien coming in for that one map and showing everybody who's boss on the Genji. And Dab Every Day, despite falling off the map, putting on map 5, map 4, map 5, showing people that, hey, I still hit those.
Yeah, honestly, this is really hard to choose.
I'm having a very difficult time.
I'm going to give a couple perspectives. Mm-hmm. And then I'll give who I'm going to say as MVP, right? Going off of that last match, EO Bacon is definitely a candidate. That cleanse was huge, and knowing that they basically only play Juno, being able to switch over to that character and hit a cleanse like that is insane.
And not just to say that one thing made him great. The fact that he was flexible enough to get out of his comfort zone and then show up in such a fantastic fashion. Right. There's nothing to blink at.
Exactly. So that's one part. Dusty and Dab Every Day, both also candidates for they just popped off on DPS. Dab Every Day was hitting crazy shots. One Boop, I also a candidate, because they swapped to Ram. They went off of ball for a map that arguably they knew that it was a, make or break. Flashpoint and push are both very momentum based. Escort, not as much out of the other options. So with the knowledge that that's a make or break map, to switch off to go to Ram is very important. If I'm thinking of this as a coach or a team owner perspective, I'm throwing Alien in the discussion, even though they played one map, because part of Dab Everyday's success in my eyes is gonna come into play from Alien taking that one map after Dab Everyday had a bit of a rough start, just to be able to kind of give them that ability to have a mental reset. That mental reset is very important for a lot of players. But at the end of the day, I think my MVP vote is going to go to Elvin. That Moira is very powerful, first off, a lot of good healing. But when you factor in a lot of the heroes that Shapeless Abyss play, or even the fact that Genji is played almost all the time, Moira is a great counter to Genji. And when they tried to go to a Pharah to overwhelm the Cass, I mean, the Moira can substitute and deal a decent amount of damage to that Pharah. The fact of Elvin's ability not only to use really good ults, to have very beneficial ult usage, but just the fact of what that character does was really helpful in making sure that that Shapeless Abyss was not able to overwhelm one specific character or find a weakness to, take advantage of. So my vote's going to go to Elvin, but I can understand any of the other heroes being picked, or any of the other characters being picked, with 100%. Like, I understand from any perspective. So who's your pick, Jem?
For me, I hate to be generic, but I gotta give it to One Boop. Now,
okay.
One Boop. Once again, everybody put in an insane performance today, and I'm not just saying that. I don't say that lightly. I want everybody to know that legitimately today is very difficult to pick one stick out person, because they all did their part insanely well. But One Boop showing up on the ball on every map against every adversity, and even flexing to the Ramatra and Shambali, and putting in that consistent performance. It's hard for me not to vote for that. It's hard for me not to vote for One Boop's very consistently high quality performance on every single map, against every single situation, and during every single team fight. You can see the gears always turning in his head. He's always thinking on what's going to happen next. And without a brain like that, it's hard to win fights. So my vote has to go to One Boop.
Valid. I as I said, you could argue your case for anybody in this match, and after you could argue it as long as you want, and eventually you probably could have a very convincing argument for anybody, because everybody played well. But with that's gonna do it for your Sunday match, and a reverse sweep for the Leviathans, as Shapeless Abyss are going to lose their undefeated title coming into week 7, the last week of the regular season before we get into playoffs. But if you're Shapeless Abyss, even though you're no longer undefeated and you just took a match loss, you're very high up in the standings and you have a very good plus minus, you're guaranteed playoffs. But your question's going to be the seeding now, and that's going to be a fun match to see. As that's going to do it for this weekend. Do you have anything else to add in before we head off, Jem?
I think you said it very well. I don't have anything else.
All right. Well, this has been Caustic, your producer, host, part-time caster, alongside Jem. Yep. And we will see you guys later for week 7, the last week before playoffs. So make sure to make note on your calendar for next weekend, as those matches will be very hype. But from everybody from the Nebula stream team and media staff, we thank you for watching and have a great night, everyone.